We have the timer started, and the next panel is DVT. Is DVT staking ready for? Is DVT staking ready for regulatory security? Oh my God! I mean, it was even hard for me to read this this topic, which means that the topic itself might be very challenging.
Yeah.
But first of all, let's start with the introductions. I know you guys have different experiences and different relations with the DVT. So Adam, maybe we'll start with you.
Right. My name is Adam. I'm one of the co-founders of SSV Labs. We develop DVT, so that's what we do. But before we get started, Dimitri, I have to say that I've been in crypto events ever since I think 2016, more or less. And your presentation was by far the top 10 favorite presentations I've ever heard.
Thank
was
you.
like brilliant, man. So thank you for that. And we're actively involved in CSM, in Lido CSM, so that's a cool project for us to engage in. Yeah, that's it, that's me.
Okay.
So Pablo García Bartet here. I am representing ATH21, which is a law firm, full-service law firm, mostly known for being specialized in digital assets and fintech. We also welcome every kind of technology-based company. And our focus is not only national, we also have international focus. We are used to work cross-border. And me, actually, I'm a partner and lawyer of the regulatory department, where we are used to battle and to study and analyze complex business models in this regard. And happy to be here sharing this panel with you guys, and happy to see so much people, or more than I think it was going to be, curious about DVT and the regulatory aspects.
Cool. Perfect. Mirko?
Awesome. Yeah, hi, I'm Mirko. I'm co-founder at stakemods.com. We are a data provider and staking platform, operating since 2018. So we've been monitoring the staking market and seeing the transition from Ethereum to proof of stake as well. And I think the whole space has come a very long way, and it's quite exciting actually to discuss these topics, which I think are very challenging because I'm also not a lawyer or anything. But I think it's great to see that there is institutional demand and also a need for some sort of regulation, probably for DVT technology.
Okay, perfect. So with this amount of subject matter experts, we will definitely crack down this topic. But before we start, let's do just a super quick recap of DVT as a technology. So what DVT is from in general, so that we can better understand what we are dealing with. Who wants to comment?
I guess I will. So I'll try to make it as simple as possible. I think everybody who's doing anything remotely related to crypto know the concept of multisig. I would say that the concept of multisig is applied to the world of staking via the DVT primitive. So DVT stands for Distributed Validator Technology. Basically, if you use a multisig as an individual, you'll get additional security, liveliness, fault tolerance attributes. When it comes to DVT, you'll do more or less the same. So if you think of staking, basically you have a computational unit called the validator that you run. Dimitri covered it quite thoroughly in his presentation. And then essentially you are always bound with duties. You are asked, you want to sign this, you want to sign this. If you do a good job, you get rewarded. We take this computational unit, this validator, and essentially split it into 4 or more non-trusting machines. So instead of having only the one, you have, let's say, 4 machines. And then they essentially can create a backup to one another. So if you have one machine going offline, you still have 3 continuing to operate the validator. And essentially, it's a more secure way to validate. So I loved your example of the cat eating the Ethernet cord. We basically kind of killed the cat. As bad as it sounds, we make sure that none of these things happen to the average staker.
Cool. Anything else to add, guys?
As the less read tech guy here, I would say, and for lawyers, the multisig and the DVT analogy is really well. It's really good. It's just for understanding is the difference will be that one is running in the consensus layer. So that's important from a regulatory perspective. And the other one is in the application layer. So that difference for people less techy than me, it's important to know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Mirko?
Yeah, I would maybe only add, like, I always see it just as a backup, basically, for validators. It's almost like a mini blockchain of the blockchain, because the blockchain is there with different validators decentralized, so the network doesn't go offline, and it's there like all the time. It can validate all transactions in time and so on. And DVT is basically like a mini consensus of third parties that also enable that one validator doesn't, or like always stays online and can perform all tasks in time and accurately.
Okay, I'm happy you mentioned this case with a backup, because the simplest case of DVT usage is not distributing the key between like multiple parties, but just distributing the key within one organization. And for example, some staking operators might decide to split their keys and to run multiple instances, but all controlled by the single entity. Would it imply any additional legal or regulatory considerations?
So surprisingly, I have to say as a lawyer that it depends. It depends on...
Well, what else should you expect from a lawyer?
I know. But it depends, of course, on the jurisdiction. We have to take a really jurisdictional approach here. For some jurisdiction that I'm not going to mention, we could say that, for example, DVT could be seen as a kind of coordinated effort to generate yield, or as a kind of centralization risk for a layer one. If it's successful, you can end up one day waking up and, I don't know, for example, you can be considered like you are trying to dilute responsibilities, for example, AML responsibilities. This is crazy, but it's already happening in jurisdictions that native staking is already, or is trying to be considered as an investment service or a security. So as I was saying, we have to take a jurisdictional approach. So here in the EU, we have far from perfect MiCA, which is regulating crypto asset services. And ESMA has been pretty clear about the staking and all the value chain that is involved in the staking field. And they are concerned about custody, okay? Who is, in this case, with applying DVT, in this case, who is in charge of the private keys or is managing the funds. So any additional requirement should be, in a quick answer, said it will depend if the DVT implementations are changing anything about services that are regulated by MiCA here in the EU. If you are forced to provide now custody services, which I think that any of the companies that I know are forcing, you should be subject to the MiCA requirements.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Because this is free legal advice.
But this is all gray areas right now.
Yeah, for
MiCA
sure,
is not fully applicable right now.
But let's say I'm a company and I distribute my keys between 4 different entities. The kind of technological benefit of it are pretty clear. Am I liable to their actions in any way? I'm not going to be legally liable.
Are you a technology provider, for example? Are you in which part of the value chain are you? Are you providing services to third parties or end users? Sorry.
I'm a staking company. I'm an operator, and I took a validator and I split its operation between 4 entities which are not my own. So I'm not running the tech, but I'm maybe customer support, service, marketing, and the rest.
Okay, so if you are providing services to end users and you are, so to speak, receiving funds, I know that is not the case, really, because they can be just...
No, I'm not talking about myself, obviously. But
no, but I will suggest that
He's talking about his friend.
Yeah, that's
He's providing services.
For a friend, for a cousin, I'm used to this. But it's like, I will suggest to level up the AML procedures and policies, for sure, if you are in touch with or related to end user funds.
All right.
Okay, that was a cool, small, personal,
Sorry
not
about
private,
that.
but
Yeah.
consultation. Perfect. So you front-runned my question, kind of. So the initial question was if the single entity is just using DVT to increase security, but what changes when this entity decides to delegate parts of the keys to the other entities? So from a legal perspective, it became an absolute nightmare, right? And I want to hear from.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite interesting, like the different use cases of DVT. One is like the one operator splitting the keys just for like internal backup, basically, and then the other is the one where you split the keys with other entities. And I think, yeah, I mean, from a risk perspective, I think it's very interesting, obviously, for institutions to also work with like, basically a DVT cluster where keys are split between different operators, because it also reduces their risk and increases like diversification on jurisdictions and so on. From a legal matter, obviously, yeah, there is a concern for the operators themselves. If like one entity is in the US, one entity in Europe, the other one in Asia, then this can be an issue maybe for the institutions.
So from the institutional perspective, the case when the key shards or DVT parts are split between multiple operators is a most desirable case, right?
Yeah, it's the most desirable case, but there's also like other like considerations, like if the keys are like in a sanctioned country or something, then this could
Okay.
also for the institution be a no-go, right? So it's also important, like where are the keys distributed and who are the entities that are actually. So it also increases like the need for due diligence and kind of checking what's actually happening under the hood.
Good points. Anything else to add?
Nothing to add.
I think that essentially what we're looking at also at is sort of anti-fragility against government scrutiny and potential censorship. So there are the kind of cases which are a bit more edge cases of an operator sitting in a sanctioned country as an operator or a staking company that is able to make good choices for its users and choose the right operators. I think the chances of this happening are not very high. Could happen, but not very high. But there are chances of, for example, MEV and specific transactions being sanctioned for this and that reason. And if you have, if you use a concept of DVT, essentially it's harder for a company, for a government agency to go after you. So in case a government agency knocks on your door and tells you to sanction or to block specific transactions, the immediate answer would be, I can't, right? Because I'm not controlling the keys, I'm not controlling the way the validator works. So it'll be a lot harder for government agencies to pursue those companies. Still possible, obviously, but I think it creates a sort of anti-fragility in that sense.
Okay, that's interesting. When I was preparing the questions for this panel, I was always thinking that, okay, now going to be talking about only disadvantages and complexities, but it turned out that there are some benefits. Cool. I'm happy about it. Okay, now a very hot question, probably hot for you, Adam. There's multiple implementations of DVT. Are they identical from the legal perspective, or are they different? So like Obol, SSV, Diva, SafeStake, I can name many more, but are they different or are they the same?
So I'm not going to go into specific names. I don't want to hurt any company. Everybody who's operating in this space is great. I'll just maybe talk about our personal choices when we created this protocol. So first of all, it's kind of designed and constructed under a DAO. So there's no single entity that is kind of controlling everything that goes on in the protocol, and things are interchangeable. So if the core team, for example, which I'm involved in, are becoming bad actors, you can always change them. Another thing is being open source. So we are completely open source, and there's no licensing kind of challenges. If you want to kind of fork the code and use it to your own benefit, you can do that tomorrow. Everything is out there for the community to use and audit. And last but not least, which is I think is a very important kind of aspect, is zero coordination. So when you use our protocol, as opposed to some of the protocols in the industry, the DVT protocols, I mean, there's no need for coordination. So you can use whatever operators that you want. You can set your own keys. You don't need to call anyone. You don't need to enter into contractual agreements with anyone, and you don't need to talk to us. Just, it's out there. You can use it any way you want, configure it any way you want. It's for the world to kind of use and enjoy. So that's our personal kind of preferences, and that's what we did in order to avoid issues of regulation and legal scrutiny. So yeah, so talking nice to you, probably.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I did kind of research, but I don't know everything about these companies. But for me, the regulatory differences could be if we understand which kind of services are they providing. Okay, so if you are providing technological services, you are providing technology for example, a node validator company, which is a company which is running a node operator. You shouldn't be concerned about regulatory challenges here from a MiCA point of view, okay, which is licensing and having to apply to an authorization. If you are providing services, you have the full value chain. You are providing services to third parties also. You should be concerned if you are providing any kind of the regulated services, okay? But there is not such risk of centralization. There is no such risk of if you are not doing this kind of regulated services. So that's the one thing that you have to be aware from this kind of licenses.
I think like really quick comment about this. I think one of the main things that you want to achieve as a DVT or a decentralized protocol in the crypto space is not to provide any services to anyone, right? So it's if you ask like who does the Ethereum blockchain provide services to, it will be a bit of a weird question to ask, and very hard to answer. Yeah. So that's the way we kind of constructed it to begin with.
That's great.
Mirko, anything?
Yeah, in terms of different, I'm not sure about the technicalities. I think Adam is the best there. You're probably on the legal side. In general, from the investor perspective, I would say differences are also like very bluntly, basically like there are also incentives for using the technology, for example. So this is obviously like a consideration also for anyone who's looking to integrate it. So there are differences on that side, which do matter for like integrators and investors as well. And apart from that, I guess, yeah, one of the biggest hurdles for like adoption is also like the track record, to see like, okay, it's being used and it has shown that it's like super solid and reliable. It's still a new technology, right? It's still relatively new. So I guess that's also holding maybe some investors back. So it's really something like, yeah, who can show the best track record, I think, as a DVT protocol. I think that's really important as well.
Cool. Okay, I think we have 1 minute left. So my final question to each of you guys would be as follows. How do you see the future of DVT usage? And what are the things that can be improved both in technologies and in DVT usage from a legal perspective? Who wants to start?
I would say that it's really important to consider voluntary exit messages, which is the final or the last minute control of the assets, which here in Europe it's considered as a management of the funds, which is in fact custody. So you have to be aware of that. And well, we can discuss it further, okay? But it's one of the concerns because it's like gray areas everywhere and the terms are not consolidated. But that's a key area for me to have a look from the legal perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Mirko?
Yeah, I would say the thing that's most important is for DVT protocols to be as neutral as possible. So try that, like, okay, there can't be any government intervention or anything like this. So just be like ultra neutral and make it like fully kind of immutable and permissionless. So that can be seen just as a technology, basically, or like as a base layer protocol technology, which then wouldn't have any possibility for government intervention, which I think is would be a very good thing for the technology if there's no attack factor basically from a legal side, and it can just be seen as a neutral protocol.
Yeah, cool.
So I'll talk a bit less about legal aspects, a bit more about the future, because this is something we're working on currently. Actually, Mirko is doing a very cool event in Thailand, in DevCon, which we're probably going to talk a bit about the future of what we're building. But basically, a lot of the players in the space right now, if you know about restaking and commit boost and other cool projects out there, basically trying to take the basic computational unit of a validator and extend its operations beyond staking and beyond committing duties to L1. And we are currently doing a lot of cool things on using DVT in participating in those different, could say, concepts and different new technologies that are coming into Ethereum, and are able to leverage the validator as a computational unit to extend its operation and to help it even earn more rewards through restaking and other concepts like commit boost and pre-confirmations and the rest. It's a bit technical mumbo jumbo, but I think it's going to be super cool. So looking forward to your event, Mirko.
Looking forward to the presentation and the future of SSV, of course, and DVT in general, and also the whole regulatory perspective. I think it's still early, so very exciting to see where the space is headed. But I guess there's a big future in DVT. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So.
Well, what a great phrase to actually round out the panel. Thank you so much, guys, for participating. I think it was very useful, and really appreciate your participation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.